have been lied to about fat loss peptides, not by bad people, but by incomplete information, by content that tells you what something is, but never tells you why it works for some people and does absolutely nothing for others. And that gap in information is costing people months of time, real money, and kind of frustration that makes you want to give up on the whole category entirely. AOD9604 and Tesamorelin are both marketed as fat loss peptide. They are not same thing. They work on completely different mechanism. They target different types of fat. They fail for completely different reason. And if you are using the wrong ones for your specific biology right now, or stacking them without understanding what each one actually does, you are not going to get the results you came for. I'm Jay Patel, a longevity PA, and I have seen this play out in our clinic at MyFitMed over and over. Someone comes in frustrated. They've been on peptide for 3 to 4 months. Nothing is moving. And when we look at what they are on and why, it becomes clear immediately that the tool doesn't match the problem. The peptide isn't broken. The match is wrong. This video fixes that. I'm going to give you mechanism of each one in a plain language, the clinical evidence behind both, who each one is actually designed for, how we combine them at my clinic when the situation calls for it, and the honest answer to which one wins for fat loss. Because the answer is not the same for every person, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. Stay with me. This is the comparison video that the peptide space has needed. Before we get into head-to-head, I need to explain why this comparison matters more than most people realize. Because the mistake that leads people to the wrong peptide is almost always the same one. When people research fat loss peptide, the question they are asking is which one is more powerful? Which one produces bigger results? Which one should I be on? And that framing sounds logical, but it misses the more important question entirely. Which mechanism matches my specific fat problem, my lifestyle, my body, and my biology? Because here is what most people don't know. There is not one type of stubborn fat. There is visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat that wraps around your organ, drives metabolic dysfunction, and shows up as that firm, protruding midsection that doesn't respond to diet and exercise the way you have expected. And there is a subcutaneous fat, the fat that sits under the skin, the kind you can pinch, the kind that respond more to general calorie deficit hormonal optimization over time. These two types of fats are biologically different. They have a different receptor densities, different metabolic activity, different inflammatory profiles, and critically, they respond to different interventions. AOD9604 and Tesamorelin both target fat loss, but they do not target the same fat through the same pathway. And if you are using the tool that's optimized for one type, when your problem is the other, you are working against yourself without knowing it. That's the framing that makes this comparison actually useful. Not which one is stronger in a vacuum, which one is right for your specific fat problem. Let's start with AOD9604 because this one is widely misunderstood even by people who are already using it. AOD9604 stands for anti-obesity drug 9604. It's a synthetic fragment of human growth hormone, specifically the C-terminal fragment spanning amino acids 177 to 191 of HGH molecule. This is the region of growth hormone that was identified as responsible for its fat-burning effects. Researchers essentially isolated that piece, synthesized it as a standalone peptide, and remove the growth factor activity that caused the side effects people associated with HGH use. Things like elevated IGF-1, glucose dysregulation, and water retention. The result is a peptide that acts on a fat tissue directly. It does not significantly raise IGF-1. It does not affect blood glucose in a way full growth hormone does. It does not carry the hormonal side effect profile of HGH. What it does is stimulate lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat, and inhibits lipogenesis, the formation of new fat from dietary intake. It works on fat cells through beta-3 adrenergic receptors and has shown in preclinical study to accelerate fat oxidation specifically. But here is the critical detail that most people misses and that I mentioned in a previous video. AOD9604 mobilizes fat. It does not burn fat. Those are two separate biological steps, and collapsing them in one is the mistake that makes that this peptide looks ineffective when it's actually working exactly as designed. Think of your fat cell as a stored vault. AOD is the key that opens the door and releases what's inside into the circulation. But once that fat is in the circulation, it needs to be burned. If you are not in a calorie deficit, if your metabolic machinery is not in a state where it's willing to burn that circulating fuel, the fat simply recycles back into the storage. Nothing changes on the scale. Nothing changes in the mirror. And the person concludes AOD doesn't work. It worked. The system around it did not. This is why clinical context for AOD is everything. Used correctly with a structured calorie deficit, ideally with therapeutic fasting, and in patients whose fat mobilization is the limiting factor rather than their metabolism itself, it is a genuinely effective tool. Use it in isolation without those conditions, you are opening a vault and leaving the money on the floor. Now Tesamorelin, and this one has a different kind of weight behind it because it has something most peptide in this space simply do not have: FDA approval and controlled human trial data. Tesamorelin is a full-length 44 amino acid GHRH analog, a synthetic version of a growth hormone releasing hormone, stabilized with a trans-2-hexanoic acid modification that makes it significantly more resistant to enzymatic breakdown in the body. That modification is not a minor detail. It means Tesamorelin produces a stronger, more sustained growth hormone pulses than shorter GHRH analog. And that pulse has particularly pronounced effect on specific fat target, visceral adipose tissue. The FDA-approved Tesamorelin under the brand name Agrifta specifically for visceral fat reduction in HIV-associated lipodystrophy, a condition involving pathological visceral fat accumulation. The approval required phase 3 randomized controlled trial in humans, showing it actually works. The published data showed visceral fat reduction of 15 to 18% over 26 weeks compared to placebo. That's significant. This is not a marginal finding. This is clinically significant, reproducible reduction in one of the most metabolically dangerous fat depot in the body. The same trial showed significant reduction in fasting triglyceride, which matters because visceral fat and triglyceride elevation travels together and both drive cardiovascular risk independently. The mechanism is through the growth hormone IGF-1 axis. Tesamorelin stimulates the pituitary to release growth hormone. Growth hormone drives lipolysis, particularly in visceral adipose tissue, which has higher growth hormone receptor density, and IGF-1 raises as downstream effect supporting lean mass preservation alongside the fat reduction. This is where Tesamorelin and AOD9604 fundamentally diverge. AOD works directly on fat cell through a growth hormone independent pathway. No significant IGF-1 increase, no systemic hormonal effect. Tesamorelin works through the entire growth hormone IGF-1 axis, systemic, hormonal, and significantly calibrated for visceral fat through that axis. Different mechanism, different targets, different evidence bases. Understanding this is what makes the comparison useful. Let me put these two directly side by side because this is where the decision becomes clear. On the mechanism of fat loss, AOD9604 works directly on fat cell through beta-3 adrenergic receptors simultaneously, and a growth hormone independent pathway. It mobilizes fat from storage and inhibits the new fat formation locally. Tesamorelin works significantly through the IGF-1 axis. It raises growth hormone, which drives lipolysis, particularly in visceral adipose tissue, and raises IGF-1 as a downstream effect. On the type of the fat targeted, AOD is more of the general fat mobilizer. It works on fat tissue broadly and is particularly relevant where the limiting factor is getting fat out of store rather than burning it. Tesamorelin has demonstrated specificity for visceral fat, the deep abdominal depot, which respond particularly well to growth hormone stimulation because it's high GHRH density. On the evidence basis, AOD has solid preclinical data and some phase 2 human trial work, but it does not achieve the endpoint required for FDA approval as an obesity drug. Tesamorelin has a phase 3 human trial data, FDA approval and published clinical outcome in humans, in a space full of compounds with only animal study data. That distinction matters significantly. On the side effect profile, AOD has notably clean profile, minimal IGF-1 effect, minimal glucose impact, low side effect burden overall. Tesamorelin carries a more meaningful glucose consideration because it works through the growth hormone, which is counter-regulatory to insulin. For most healthy patients, this is manageable with monitoring. For patients with pre-diabetic or insulin resistant, it requires more careful attention. On a question of who needs what, AOD9604 is most relevant when fat mobilization is the bottleneck, when fat cells are locked and resistant to releasing stored fat, as in insulin-resistant, PCOS, postmenopausal fat distribution, chronic inflammation. Tesamorelin is more relevant when visceral fat is the dominant target, the metabolically dangerous deep abdominal fat with the cardiovascular and metabolic consequences that comes with it. These are complementary tools, not competing ones. The question is never really which one is better. The question is which problem you have and which tool addresses that problem. The ideal AOD patient has a specific profile, and understanding it makes it clear why this peptide underperforms when it's prescribed without this context. The person who responds best to AOD9604 has a fat that is resistant to mobilization. Their fat cells are effectively locked. High insulin, chronic inflammation, or hormonal disruption had made the normal fat release mechanism sluggish. This shows up commonly in women with PCOS, in perimenopausal and postmenopausal women whose fat distribution has shifted and became more resistant. In people with insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, and in anyone who has been through prolonged calorie restriction and whose body has adopted into fat conservation mode. These are people who eat in deficit and feel like nothing moves, who exercise consistently and sees minimal changes in certain fat deposit, who has done everything conventionally right and still feel like their fat cells are holding on for their dear life, because physiologically they are. AOD addresses the specific mechanism that's failing in these patients. It opens the fat cell, overrides the resistance, and releases what's stored in the circulation. But the next step is non-negotiable. That circulating fat has to be burned. The protocol that I found works most consistently in AOD paired with structural therapeutic fasting. You mobilize with AOD and you create a metabolic condition to burn fat during the fasted window. Without the second step, you are doing half the job. The patient who treats AOD as a standalone magic solution without building the calorie deficit and fasting structure around it is the patient who reports it didn't work. The patient who understands the two-step mechanism and builds the protocol correctly is the one who comes back and says their stubborn fat finally started responding for the first time in years. The Tesamorelin patient has a different and very recognizable profile. And once you see it described, the most people immediately know whether it fits them or someone they know. The defining feature is visceral fat accumulation as a dominant presentation. This is the person with the firm, round, protruding midsection. Not soft and pinchable, but hard and full. They may not be dramatically overweight overall. Their arms and legs may be relatively lean, but the abdomen, particularly the deep abdominal region, is where the problem lives, and it has not responded meaningfully to their diet efforts or their training. This pattern shows up most consistently in men in their 40s and 50s experiencing the metabolic changes of andropause, where declining testosterone and growth hormone together sets fat deposition towards the visceral compartment. It shows up in a postmenopausal woman as estrogen decline changes where the body preferentially stores fat. It shows up in people with metabolic syndrome, elevated fasting glucose, elevated triglyceride, reduced HDL, elevated blood pressure, where visceral fat is both a symptom and a driver of underlying dysfunction. The metabolic consequences of significant visceral fat are not cosmetic. This fat depot releases inflammatory cytokines, drives insulin resistance, contributes to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and is an independent cardiovascular risk factor. Addressing it is not just an aesthetic goal, it's a metabolic health intervention. Tesamorelin's specificity for this fat depot, demonstrated in a controlled human trial, makes it the most evidence-supported peptide intervention for this specific presentation. When I have a patient with this pattern, lab markers showing metabolic dysfunction, and a history of that fat not responding to conventional approaches, Tesamorelin is almost always where the conversation starts. Here is where the clinical picture gets genuinely interesting, because for specific patient profile, using both is not redundant. It's additive in a way that neither peptides achieves alone. The scenario where combining this makes the most sense is the patient who has significant visceral fat as a primary target. So Tesamorelin is doing the heavy lifting there through the IGF-1 axis, but who also has an insulin resistance or hormonal disruption pattern that makes fat mobilization sluggish more broadly. In that patient, Tesamorelin is attacking the visceral depot through the growth hormone pathway, but there is a secondary layer of fat resistance, locked fat cell that won't release readily even as the hormonal environment improves. That's where AOD9604 comes in as a complement. Tesamorelin is working systemically on visceral fat through hormonal stimulation. AOD is working directly at the fat cell level to overcome the mobilization resistance that insulin and inflammation have created. You are addressing the same overall problem through two completely different mechanisms simultaneously. The sequence and dosing of this combination requires a real clinical judgment. So don't try it without seeing a medical provider. You need to know your labs, baseline, and track it through the treatment to make sure Tesamorelin is producing the growth hormone response you need without pushing into supraphysiologic territory. You need to structure the AOD protocol around fasting window to make mobilization actionable. And you need to monitor glucose because Tesamorelin's growth hormone effects on insulin sensitivity requires attention, especially in a metabolic syndrome patient profile who most commonly needs this combination. This is not a protocol you assemble from a forum post. It is a clinically managed protocol that produces results precisely because monitoring and adjustment are part of it. This combination, when the patient profile calls for it. At my clinic, this combination, when patient profile calls for it, produces outcomes that are genuinely different from what either peptide delivers independently. Side effects. Let's be direct about both. AOD9604 has one of the cleanest side effect profile of any peptide in this space because it doesn't significantly raises IGF-1 and doesn't work through the full growth hormone axis. You avoid most of the side effect people associate with HGH or even GHRH analog like Tesamorelin. Injection site reaction, mild redness or irritation are most commonly reported effects and are usually transient. There is a minimal glucose impact, minimal water retention. For most patients, the tolerability is excellent even at the therapeutic doses. Tesamorelin carries a more meaningful side effect consideration set because it works through the growth hormone stimulation. Growth hormone's counter-regulatory effect on insulin is in play. For healthy patients with normal glucose metabolism, this is typically not a clinical significant. Transient post-injection glucose fluctuation that resolves quickly. Now, for patients with pre-diabetic, insulin-resistant, or type 2 diabetes, this requires monitoring. Fasting glucose and A1C should be part of the baseline workup and should be rechecked at 8 to 12 weeks. Some patients also experiences fluid retention early in the treatment as IGF-1 raises, which typically resolves as body adjusts. Injection site reactions are similar to the other peptides. For both peptides, IGF-1 is the lab that anchors the monitoring protocol. For AOD, this is less critical given its minimal effect on IGF-1 effect, but it provides a useful baseline. For Tesamorelin, IGF-1 is a primary efficiency and safety marker. You want to confirm its raising into a therapeutic range, meaning the growth hormone stimulation is actually working, and confirm it's not going supraphysiologic, which would shift the risk profile. In my clinic, IGF-1 is checked before starting the treatment and periodically throughout the protocol. Dosing decisions are made from that number, not from how someone feels in week 3. Here is the verdict. I'm going to say something that most content in this space avoids saying because it doesn't make for a clean headline. There is no winner. Not because they are equal. They are not equal. But because the question, which one is better for fat loss, does not have a universal answer. It has a personal answer. And the personal answer depends entirely on which fat problem you actually have. If your problem is visceral fat, the deep abdominal accumulation, the firm midsection, the metabolic marker that travels with it, Tesamorelin is the more evidence supported, more targeted, more clinically validated choice. The human trial data is there. The FDA approval is there. The mechanism specifically addresses the fat depot you are trying to move. For this problem, Tesamorelin wins. If your problem is resistant fat mobilization, locked fat cell driven by insulin resistance, hormonal disruption, inflammation, or metabolic adaptation from chronic restriction, AOD9604 addresses the specific mechanism that conventional approaches misses. Paired with the right fasting and deficit protocol, it can lock fat loss that has been stalled for years. For this problem, AOD9604 is the more direct tool. And if your problem is both visceral fat accumulation sitting on top of metabolic dysfunction that makes fat resistant to mobilization, the combination of both, properly sequenced and monitored, is where we get our most consistent and impressive results. The most important thing I can tell you is this: the peptide is not the hard part. The matching is the hard part. Getting the right tool to the right problem with the right protocol around it. That is where result comes from. And that is exactly the conversation worth having with the provider who knows both. If you watched this entire YouTube video and you are now looking at your current protocol differently, that's the point. Not to sell you on specific peptide, to give you a framework that actually helps you make a good decision for your specific situation. If you've been on AOD9604 or Tesamorelin and not seeing what you expected, the most likely explanation is mismatch between the tool and the problem, or a missing piece in the protocol around it. That's fixable, but it requires looking at the full picture, your labs, your fat distribution pattern, your metabolic markers, your history, not just the peptide in isolation. In my FitMed, this is the conversation we have with every patient before we recommend anything. Not what's problem right now, not what something read on a forum, what does your biology actually needs. If you want that conversation, the consultation link is in the description if you're in Texas. Come with your question, come with your labs if you have them. We'll give you a straight answer. Share this video with someone who is frustrated with their fat loss results and trying to figure out if the peptides are worth it. Because this framework is exactly what they need before they spend another dollar on a wrong tool. Subscribe for more content like this every week. Peptides, GLPs, hormones, metabolic health, all evidence-based. None of it is fluff. I'll see you in the next one.